Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Eurowatch. We're getting close to the end of the tournament, and it's a final that neither me or Rittik expected in any way whatsoever. We are going to be previewing England v Italy in the final of Euro 2020. Rittik, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you see this coming pre-tournament?
Well, I was ready to play the final countdown off of my mouth before you asked me the question. But on a scale of 1 to 10, honestly, this was maybe a 3. Neither of us expected England to get this far. And neither of us really backed Italy all the way. I know, like, right before the tournament began, I sort of changed my tune and I was like, you know what, this Italian team is got, especially after that first game, after that 4-0 win. I was like, I don't see anyone stopping this team.
Yeah, and I know in the early months of this podcast, we said Italy will actually get to the final and lose to France. But then I changed it more to Spain. I can't remember what your one was, but yeah, I backtracked a little. And I think I said Italy to the semis and lose to France. So they very nearly lost to Spain. In fairness, I think Spain were brilliant against them, completely shut them down.
I thought Spain would get on the group stages, and after the first 2 games, I was holding that view. But yeah, it's an interesting point you bring in, and I just wanted to bring it around to Euro 2012. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was the last tournament game between the two teams, and it was
2014 actually.
2014.
In the group stages, when England went out with 1 point as they drew to Costa Rica.
Oh, Italy was in that group?
Yeah, it was Italy, Uruguay, and Costa Rica.
Oh.
But in the last European Euros fixtures, you're correct, 2012.
I guess, yeah. So the point I wanted to bring across is, from that game, England ended up the game looking like an absolute joke of a team. Even though they took it all the way to penalties, Joe Hart probably never fully recovered from that game, where he was completely upended by Andrea Pirlo's Panenka penalty. England looked a joke then. They were further made a joke after Iceland knocked them out in the following Euros. And the roundabout point I was trying to make is that England have come much further than people give them credit for. You know, even English fans always look for the negatives. Like, even Alex and I throughout this tournament have, tried to look for the fallacies in England's game. Who didn't do well, who wasn't performing well, and whether it was a symptom of something wider. But this England team is truly come leaps and bounds from that. And even if they don't win, which is a scenario we really don't want to entertain too much. Even if they don't win, England have a lot to be proud of this tournament. The way they've played, they've not had any fear. Yes, you can maybe argue that, besides Germany, who even then weren't really a strong team, they didn't have many tests. But in a tournament, you can only beat what's in front of you. And if you beat what's in front of you and you win, you deserve to win.
See, I'm with England. If they lose the final, I mean, obviously over the next week I'll be disappointed. But on that note, I can't remember a manager or player who was so so widely proved people wrong. That Gareth Southgate. I'm working on a video now about it. No one was going into this tournament seriously proving logic to why England will win or do well. Everyone was saying this is why Southgate will do bad and this is why he should be sacked. And I was one of them and you were one of them. Everyone said it. And he's completely proved everyone wrong to the point where I am part of the clan now that just says give him a new contract, at least to the World Cup, because he deserves it. And I think no one put him in the top category of managers. I think this tournament has proved he's up there with Mancini for the best managers in Europe.
Oh, wow. And to think all of this wouldn't have happened if Sam Allardyce was just a bit more careful. We wouldn't have any of this.
Frightening fault.
We wouldn't have any of this if Sam Allardyce wasn't more careful. He still has a 100% winning record for however much that counts. But yeah, you bring a very interesting point. There's lots written about England, but I also wanted to draw a parallel to Italy because Roberto Mancini has, rarely shown a lighter side, but this Italian team are different as well. They're not, dependent on one or two creative players and an army of, 7-on-10s. This is an Italian team who play with a bit more of a reckless abandon. That Italian team who presses, who goes on the wings. They're not the Italian team I've been watching since like 2000 when I started watching international football and the Euros. And I love it. I love that both of these teams have this brilliant narrative coming to them, and it makes sense that both of them are in the finals because both of them have truly worked on every facet of their game. I mean, even a year ago, forget a year ago, even 6 months ago, when we were talking about James Justin being the best option for England at left back, we weren't even entertaining Luke Shaw.
You were saying that, Ritik. Don't pin that on me. I was not. You saying
agreed.
That was you.
You agreed. You agreed.
No, I said Luke Shaw.
Anyway, but like even barring Shaw, Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice, people were having that go at Harry Maguire for a bunch of things, and the team that's coalesced and formed by the end of it is not the team people thought. It's not the England we thought, and maybe that's what we deserve for doubting them. And if we continue to doubt them and they continue to do well, it sets a dangerous precedent for what England can achieve. But that notwithstanding, it's incredible that both of these teams have a story around them. Italy have shaken off that stoic bravado that has, gotten them so far, and they've gotten further with a different plan. Like, you could take out anybody from this Italian team and put in a substitute and they'd do well. Hell, we thought Emerson was going to, completely crumble in the face of Pau Torres and Spain's right wing, but he was one of Italy's best players. And he can still probably handle whoever comes in on the right wing for England, be that Bukayo Saka, Jadon Sancho, hell, maybe even Marcus Rashford.
I don't know. I don't think he was that. I think he was decent, but I don't think anyone for Italy impressed me majorly in the semi-final besides Chiellini for boy-toying Jordi Alba.
Best moment of the Euros.
I think Spain provided a blueprint on how to beat Italy, which is to shut down that midfield. Because as soon as Italy couldn't play through Jorginho, when Dani Olmo was shutting him down, Italy they were trapped inside their own half. That Chiesa goal was one of about 3 counterattacks in the second half. So
yeah, but don't count on England doing that. As robust as England's
Why not?
As robust as England's midfield is, they don't have those kind of passing lanes. They don't have those quick passers who can pass and move with, increased regularity. You have to also know that Spain had nothing else going for them. They were trailing and they needed Alvaro Morata to bail them out. A man who's been heckled and reduced to nothing.
No. Spain were. It's less about the passing. It's more the pressing. Spain just overloaded the Italy midfield. England definitely set up to do it, especially with Mason Mount, who can play as a forward/slashed midfielder, who'll be able to do that. I think Southgate will be looking at that and thinking he can definitely muddy that Italy midfield and make it harder for them to progress. So I don't know. I think England will look at that game and definitely have a plan. If anything's been proven so far is no matter the opponent, Southgate has had a plan that has generally worked.
I suppose so. I do suppose so. I think it'll also come down to both teams having very strong defenses, whereas Chiellini and Bonucci, have a partnership that has been forged, I believe, since 2008. Because I think 2006 was more Barzagli, Cannavaro.
It was 2010.
2010.
And I know that because Fabio Paratici's the man who brought in Bonucci, I believe, when he joined Juve. So 2010.
2010. So it's a partnership that's been forged over 11 years that has reached a final of an international tournament that's won many, 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 many domestic trophies. It's reached 2 finals of Champions Leagues. But that notwithstanding, and they're faced up against John Stones and Harry Maguire, who have been England's first choice pairing for, I believe, I would say 2 years? When both fit?
Since the 2018 World Cup.
Yeah, since the 2018 World Cup. And I don't really see which one of them is stronger, and it's gonna be incumbent upon Italy's better wingers versus England's maybe better strikers. Because I think Chiesa is reaching the proper fever pitch that I predicted for him this tournament at just the right time. Insigne is doing really well, and Immobile is going to be the weak point. Immobile is going to be that weak point in the Italian attack, and it'll be crucial for both the fullbacks and the centre backs to really squeeze those wingers so that they don't have many options. And it's going to be interesting. Like the game in the wide areas is where I feel it's going to be won and lost, and not necessarily the midfield.
I'm looking at both teams. I'm growing increasingly confident of England. I think Italy definitely have the experience. The average age of England's squad is 25.4, which youngest in the tournament. Italy's is 28.2. Like, they've got that experience, but that's not always good. I mean, Italy have lost 3 of their last 4 major international finals, going all the way back to I think 1990.
Oh wow.
So, they're not like sort of Chiellini thing of Italy know how to win. They don't. They've won a quarter of their last 4 finals, so it's not overwhelmingly there.
None of them have started an international tournament and that they've won. In 2006, Chiellini was largely an unused substitute. Marchetta, Bartaglia, Cannavaro, and even Nesta were the ones mainly plied at centre back. None of these guys, I mean, they've reached, Bonucci and Chiellini are the only players who were there in that Euros lost to, I believe it was Spain in 2012. They're the last remnants of that Italian team that had no right being in the final, but did anyway. So
whereas England, sorry, they obviously don't have any final experience going back an extremely long time. So they're a lot more even in that aspect.
Yeah, and maybe this is the time for them to do that. And England haven't won a title since '66. Italy haven't won the Euro since '68, and they've lost 2 finals on their way. So there's pressure on this Italian team. I think they're the neutral's choice to win this game.
Absolutely. Everyone fucking hates England. I don't think I've ever got hate before.
Doesn't it feel good though? Doesn't it feel good for actually being hated for being a proper football team again? After
no, I feel like a Man United fan.
Oi. We're not going there.
It's true. You get a lucky decision.
Fuck off.
Everyone comes for you as if you're the person. Like I read it out on a podcast yesterday. I had a guy called Frank, a very lovely Netherlands fan. He replied to Fred I did about what football's coming home means to people my age, and he said something like, "I hope the dirty English lose. You're cheating, you're scumbags. All of your fans are shit." I just quoted it and said, "How's the Czech Republic treating you, mate?" Clearly, Netherlands did very well against them. But yeah, Italy are the neutral. I think they're everyone's choice. There's even people in the UK who want anyone who doesn't like football in England want Italy to win as much as humanly possible. So, but it's at Wembley though, so England have that advantage.
I guess the Wembley advantage is sort of there, and the fact that Italy's training at Spurs' ground is not a good omen for them. But going out from the glowing, overarching themes of this final, let's get down to the brass tacks, Alex. Let's get down to where England are the strongest and where they can exploit it. Because the question I want to pose to you is, do you change anything for the final layup? Because I know one of the things you talked about is not, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And probably I'm coming back to Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. They've done really well to reach the final. But if they both are to play, I really wouldn't mind seeing Jordan Henderson with them.
No, I think if it's a 4-2 England play, it should be Phillips and Rice at the base and then Mount in midfield. I mean, Henderson's a very good player, but I don't know. It's less of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But Phillips and Rice have been like themselves. They're undroppable. They've been absolutely brilliant. They haven't put a foot wrong this tournament. And then genuinely the only question for me is if you have. If it's a 4-2-3-1, you have Mount in midfield and Sterling on the left. For me, it's a question of who's the best to target Emerson, because whether he's been okay or not so far in his limited appearances, he's not what Spinazzola was. He's very lacking in sharpness in game time. So it depends who can cause him the most trouble. But in terms of team selection, it is at the point now where I criticise Southgate's team selection every time we put a team out before the tournament and in the first two games. He can start Dean Henderson up front for all I care. He's earned the right to be trusted with whatever he puts out. But I don't think he'll be doing any major changes, just maybe a tweak or two. I think we know Kane and Sterling are undroppable. I think Phillips and Rice are undroppable. I think Stones and Maguire are undroppable. I think Shaw's undroppable. The only question mark is Trippier in for Walker, which is very unlikely, and then the right midfield position. That's it, really.
I'm glad you brought up Trippier because there are probably like two things that will strike me about this a little bit. I think Walker vindicated himself. I believe it was in the quarterfinals versus Ukraine. Walker looked suspect. Walker did look suspect, but against Denmark he was solid. And Walker has this incredible athleticism and recovery speed, which people often don't recognize that much. And I think that's a reason why both Southgate and Pep trust him in a litany of different positions and situations. He can get back really fast. Whereas Trippier might be better in the attacking sense, overlapping with Bukayo Saka or whoever's ahead. I think you need to solve your defensive stability, because while Shaw goes up and creates those channels on the left flank, I think it's better balanced with someone like Walker at the back, because you also bring up right midfield, and I think England should go with the exact same lineup that they did against Denmark, because having Bukayo Saka on the right wing gives you that option to switch to a 3 if you want it. He's good enough to play a right wing back. You've seen how every time he's played at right wing, he's been an absolute nuisance. And, targeting Emerson and stretching Chiellini wide, like, that's where England's goal is going to come from. Like, I think if people will recall in the Denmark game, there was this beautiful chance where Kane dropped in deep, threaded a through ball to Saka. Saka's provided a perfect pinpoint cross to Raheem Sterling, who probably was a little too close to Kasper Schmeichel. Can't take away the good save, but that channel between Kane, Saka, and Sterling has looked threatening. And if Southgate does play the exact same lineup which he played in the semi-finals, I think that'll be something that can really get that first goal. Because if England don't get that first goal, it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, but that's the same for every game, really. But what is there anything you'd change at Italy? I mean, the predicted lineup would be the same, I guess, as Donnarumma, Chiellini, Bonucci, Lorenzo, Emerson, Barella, Jorginho, Verratti, Insigne, Immobile, Chiesa. I guess the only question mark again for them is Berardi over Chiesa. I don't think that's fair, although Chiesa is apparently carrying a knock. And then in midfield, does Locatelli come in? I don't think so. I think it's got to be...
I think Barella has looked a little off in the last 2 games, and he started 4 different midfield combinations. Jorginho's going to stay, for sure. I think Jorginho's the midfield mainstay. I think he'll have Verratti as someone who will maybe, try and get at Mason Mount. But when you're looking at the third midfielder, I think Locatelli should be one who should start, because there's a loss of fluidity I've noticed from Italy's midfield from their first game against Turkey to their last game against Spain. And if you watch both those games clearly, you'll see how quickly the ball moved from midfield to the wing in that first game, and you'll see how static it was against Spain. Now, Spain were a much better team than Turkey, in the balance of play, if you take it in that sense. But I think you bring in Locatelli into the midfield, especially if you have 2 defensive midfielders, because Locatelli can play those 1-2 passes with Chiesa. He's good with Immobile when Immobile is dropping deep, because I think one of the other problems England has is when Kane drops deep, he drops deep into the spaces that Mount usually occupies. And you sort of nullify yourself when Kane drops deep. We like when Kane drops deep. He becomes a threat, but he neutralizes what Mason Mount can do. And I feel that Italy with Immobile do that a little bit better. They are less in each other's way. So I think you bring in Locatelli, and if Chiesa is not 100%, I think you start Berardi. You don't want a slightly weak Chiesa. You want a Chiesa that's, full of blood and thunder. And I think you'd want that as on the bench if he's not fully fit. If he's fully fit, start him. Because I think he's been responsible for, some of the best.
Do you know what I do?
And he can make a goal.
What I do, if I'm Mancini and I want to beat England, I would look at the last game and think, okay, Southgate's going to clearly try and overload midfield. I would drop a slightly unfit Chiesa and put in Matteo Pessina and go with a hybrid of...
And go for a diamond.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, basically just try and get a fourth person to join in midfield so Italy don't get stuck inside, which is what happened against Spain. And Pessina has chipped in with 2 goals. And I think it's better than starting Berardi, who I think's been...
I think Pessina's got 3, actually.
Nah, he's got 2. He's
got 2 in one game.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. 2 in 3 appearances. But yeah, I don't think he's stopped Berardi. I think he's done nothing so far. He's got 1 assist. I think that was in the group stage. So...
Oh, but in the first game, he and... you have to know that him and Locatelli play for Sassuolo together. That first game showed their chemistry. And chemistry counts for a lot in the Italian national team because I don't know how many players, regularly play with each other. Of course, Bonucci and Chiellini have been doing it since donkey's years. But Verratti and Jorginho are both midfielders who don't play in Italy. And...
it has to stop them being good.
It hasn't stopped them being good, but if you watch back the Turkey game, you see how good Berardi and Locatelli were together. But it really showed.
But it hasn't given any output. Like Berardi has 1 assist and 0 goals, whereas like Chiesa has 2.
Chiesa has also played many more games.
No, they've had the same amount of appearances.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, Berardi started 3 games. Chiesa started 3 games as well, and I think Berardi... Oh no, I think Chiesa's been subbed on 3 times, not too sure, but basically, it's pretty much the same. I think Chiesa's played about 30 more minutes, and Chiesa's been markedly better than Berardi. But I would start Pessina to overload that midfield, because I think that'd be better. But then it comes down to... I guess the last point in setup is... Would you start a back 3 for England? I think it's slightly too negative.
I think start a back 4 because if you've got Bukayo Saka and Kyle Walker, you can switch to a back 3 mid-game.
Yeah, and I think Rice and Phillip, well, particularly Rice has joined into the back 4 to make it a bit.
Yeah, he can. Rice can drop in deeper because Calvin Phillips has shown a bit more forward initiative, whereas Rice is more of your old school stopper and defensive shield. So that's gonna be one of the main battles. But I wanted to come to a bit more spice for you, Alex. There are 2 people here. There's Harry Kane and there's Raheem Sterling. If Raheem Sterling has a good game and scores a goal, I'm tempted to say Raheem Sterling has been the best player of this tournament.
It feels awkward to say it. I think it's because it feels uncomfortable saying a player of my own country would be player of the tournament, and it's not as if like it's like Miroslav Klose for Germany. Like he just got the goals, but you couldn't really tell what he was doing well at points. I think in the Denmark game he was probably the best player on the pitch, but yeah.
I think Sterling's been like a talisman for this team.
Harry Kane. I think he has to be, yeah.
And Harry Kane is a goal. So if Harry Kane scores a goal and lays on an assist, he will get the Golden Boot alongside Cristiano Ronaldo because Cristiano Ronaldo is on 5 goals and 1 assist. Patrick Schick is on 5 goals. Romelu Lukaku and Harry Kane and Karim Benzema are all on 4. And Kane is the only person who has a chance to tie them. So it's going to be an interesting subplot to the whole narrative of the game.
I hope Kane gets the Golden Boot. I don't want Ronaldo getting it for playing 4 games.
Well, that's just the way it goes sometimes, that's the way. Sometimes that's the cruelty of international football. Of course, you've also had people talking about Jorginho possibly being the player of the tournament. I know Andrea Pirlo had talked about Euro 2012 in his autobiography, which you should read. It's ghostwritten, but it's brilliant. He talked about how the organizers told him, if Italy win it, you get it. If Spain win it, Iniesta gets it. It was laid out to him that black and white. And I can remember like Pirlo carrying that team in that tournament. I don't think Jorginho's had to do that much of a carry job, but it's interesting because here is the fulcrum of the Italian team, Jorginho, a man who doesn't play in Italy, and I think it's both Italy and England have this this long modern tendency of players to stay and play within their country. England do it probably for English players probably do it for financial reasons. Italian players probably do it because they're not comfortable going outside Italy. But the winds are changing, and both of these teams are shedding that. Whereas you've had people like Mario Balotelli going out. Verratti has been out of Italy, for maybe the best part of the last decade. Jorginho is out of Italy. And in England, you have people like Jude Bellingham, Jadon Sancho. Well, he is coming back, but he played his time in Germany as well. It's very few examples to make this a wider trend, but I think both countries have players who are now going to try their luck, within outside their home countries. And I think that's only going to enrich both of their games. And you can see Jorginho and Verratti play in a slightly different manner than, the old school Italian midfielders did, the likes of Marco Materazzi, the likes of Gennaro Gattuso. They're different players, and I think they're different players because of their foreign experience.
Here's a quick question. It's just on the subject of it, because it's part of my mind, but I don't want to see it let go. Going to this game from the English perspective, especially Chelsea fans who I follow quite a bit of on Twitter, there's an ongoing thing because between them, it's usually a debate of Rice v Jorginho. The other side, one side calls Rice sideways passer and he's shit, and Jorginho is the best thing in the world, and the other side basically calls Jorginho the same thing as the other side calls Rice. I'm wondering, out of these two, who would you take in your team? It's related, but are these two, especially after this tournament, at Man United, say, which one would you have taken in your team? And then, so to make it a bit fairer, imagine they're both the same age.
I think they play different. I think they play different roles, but I would take Rice. I would take Rice because Rice is a throwback for me, at least, to a sort of forgotten era of defensive midfielders. Calvin Phillips is also in that mold, but Rice is great. Rice is the balance that team needs, and I'm glad Southgate has stuck with him. I remember when he started out, when he got his first couple of caps for England, he did not impress. He did not impress. And he was young, he was raw, and he's becoming more of a man. Jorginho, I believe, is a incredible deep-lying playmaker of sorts, but for my team, I would have Rice.
I think for United, Rice makes more sense. Definitely. I think he'd fit him well. And yeah, the thing with Rice, I feel bad for him for the tournament just because he's clearly told by Southgate to be as safe and as boring as possible, to recycle the ball and not go anywhere. He's clear. You look at the West Ham stats from 1920, where he didn't really get told instructions, and he was West Ham for the team. His stats were amazing, but that's just a fun thing to throw you. Should we go into the score predictions then? I've got mine nailed.
Can't let it go. Tell me yours.
Mine is 1-0 England in extra time with John Stones to score from a corner.
That's very likely.
The reason is because we know from Southgate, England would have worked extremely hard on set pieces. And Stones last season, he got 4 goals for City just in the Premier League. So my logic is it hasn't happened yet. So the odds suggest it will happen at some point. So
it probably could. It's likely.
But yeah, I'm betting on that. And I don't know. But with Italy, I said it before. I was more worried about Denmark because they are much more of an unknown quantity, and I think at this point Southgate's earned the trust from me to trust him to say, you know what, you've proven you know what you're doing. Go and show us. So I'm backing England to win.
Oh wow, big call from the Englishman. Shock. I am actually going for the other side of the pendulum. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 Italy win, but I'm going for a first half goal from Raheem Sterling, which will start the game. But I think towards the second half, Italy are just going to go all guns blazing. They're not going to reserve themselves for extra time. And the goals are going to come from Manuel Locatelli, and they're going to come from, I think the winning goal, and this is just my like pipe dream, the winning goal is going to come from a Chiellini header, which we've had one ruled outside already. I mean, for a foul, I think. But yeah, going for a defensive header to win the game. Alex and I are both on some sort of wavelength.
Fair enough. Personally, I want nothing more than Chiellini to lose and cry his eyes out on camera. That'd be great.
Oh man, I want more shithousery. That whole coin toss thing with Jordi Alba was the greatest thing I've seen in an off the ball football moment for ages. I love it.
Yeah, I loved it too.
He is the dad. He is the uncle. Like, I want to be Chiellini when I'm 40. Like, no compunctions. I want to be that guy. So that's what we'll leave it with. Alex and I firmly divided on the finals. We hope wherever you're watching with a lot of people. This is not a game you want to watch alone. Also, depending on when this comes out, we should have a winner of the Copa America as well, Alex. I know who you're backing for that one. But yeah, it's a lot of football to go around. And Alex and I will be back after the finals. Eurowatch is not done just yet. Our 7-month odyssey will get a bang of an ending. And we hope that you're around for that as well. So from me in San Francisco, it's a goodbye.
And for me, it's also a goodbye. Come on, England!